So hello, Ollie. Thanks for joining on Zoom today. Today we're talking about our electric division, which is incredible. I will say thank you. You can't see it with my background, but my lights are on and humming along. That's thanks to Tom's team. And we'll also talk about the conservation programs we have based out of our electric department. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Tom, who is the director of our electric utility.
Hi, thanks for everybody for being here. Take a listen to what we got going on in the electric and conservation divisions at the city. My name is Tom McBartlett. I'm the director of the electric utility. I've been here for a little over 10 years. I just got a few short slides to go through, and hopefully we'll have some time for questions at the end. And I'm going to try and share this. Can everybody see that?
No.
Oh, no.
No, I had the same problem last time. I don't know what's the matter with my.
And Tom, I have it up on my end, and it's easier for me to drive too.
Yeah, I think we better try that because everybody went away, and now is all I can see is a blank slide. I don't know what my malfunction is with.
Okay, we have a message. You're starting to share your screen. There you go.
And I think you all are seeing my screen, but I am happy to be of help. All right, do you all still see the slide?
Yep.
Yeah.
Title slide, electric utility.
Perfect. Thanks, Jordan.
Of course.
So, as I said, my name is Tom McBartlett. I've been with the city since 2015. I've been in the electric utility industry for over 25 years. The electric team is 17 full-time employees, and the conservation team is 3 full-time employees. Next slide. So the city has operated its own electric utility since the early 1900s. For a lot of years, all the city's needs were met with local hydropower. Of course, we don't produce enough locally to still do that, but we do still mainly serve our needs from hydropower from the Columbia River system. And that's a picture of our dam up the canyon in case you haven't ever had the chance to get up there and see Reeder Reservoir and our dam. Next slide, please. So we have approximately 12,500 meters, about 53 miles of overhead power lines, 79 miles of underground lines. We own one of the 3 substations that we take service from. Pacific Power owns the other 2. We operate the generator down below the Reeder Reservoir, and that's a picture there the last time we had the lid off of the Pelton wheel. And we are responsible for maintaining all the trees and vegetation in the power line right-of-ways. And that has become a bigger piece of our work over the last few years as we really work and strive to mitigate wildfire risk there. And next slide. So what's happening? We recently completed a master plan for the utility, kind of a 10-year forecast planning document, to kind of drive where we need to make investments to meet future needs. We did a full wildfire mitigation plan that was mandated by the state government and filed with the Public Utilities Commission. Just last week, we signed new wholesale power purchase agreements with Bonneville Power Administration, ensuring our availability or our rights to their clean electricity until 2044. We recently purchased the Mountain Avenue substation from them. And I left this last one in here. It's a little dated, but it comes with some cool pictures. So I left it in here. A year ago, January, we were able to send a crew up to Springfield to help. They have a municipal utility as well. And they had been hit by a major ice storm. Just kind of shows the cooperation between the public power utilities and how we try to help each other out when we need to. And the cool pictures are next. That's what our guys faced when they got up there to help. I imagine they might have second guessed their volunteering to go when they saw that ice, but they were there for 10 days and the people of Springfield were really appreciative. Next slide. So this is the substation we purchased. year or so ago. You can see there's a lot of room for expansion there. It's really centrally located in our system, which makes it really good for resiliency and future capacity needs. So what we buy from Bonneville is really clean. And on average, it's 95% or more carbon free. And this just shows what that mix is made up of to get us that clean energy here, and how we compare to the region and the nation as far as the carbon content of our electricity. Local resources that we still have, we have a 845 kW Pelton wheel we saw a picture of a little bit ago. That usually produces 1.5 to 2 million kilowatt hours annually. We have probably closer to 500 residential and commercial solar installations now, with a nameplate capacity of over 5 megawatts. And we have worked on a plan for a possible 1 megawatt solar installation out at the Ashland airport that we may be able to couple with a storage battery for some resiliency backup type of.
You better get out there quick.
Next slide, Jordan. So what we're looking at doing in the near term, we want to expand the Mountain Avenue substation. There's some new technologies with automated switching for self-healing circuits. So the outage will take care of itself, basically. We're looking into putting in AMI or smart meters they have value for conservation, for outage management, and ease of billing. And there's a possibility to build another substation where we'd own and control it and get out of Pacific Powers down on Nevada Street. And we've been putting a lot of energy into system hardening efforts like fiberglass poles for fire resiliency, coated secondary wire, and get rid of the old bare wire that slaps together and sparks fires, non-explosive fuses, just a lot of stuff around wildfire mitigation. And there's how you can get a hold of me. Do you want to do questions now on that one, Jordan, or do you want to do Chad's and then do questions on all of it?
Yeah, well, let's just check in for some general questions. I will share a bit since Tom is doesn't brag much about his team, but I will say what's so cool. I was in Talent, city manager in Talent, where we got our power from Pacific Power. And to now be living and working here in Ashland, I feel so lucky to have our own electric utility department. 'Cause I don't know you all, we have some of the best reliability in our network and the quickest turnaround for power to get back on. And all those projects that Tom just named are ways to improve that even more, to completely start removing our reliance on kind of these third-party generators and lines. And so
should have added in there, we've also received national recognition, 8 or 9 out of the last 10 years for our reliability metrics. And that's compared to utilities all across the United States. We rank in the top 25%.
Yeah, exactly. So if you all have any questions about your electric utility, power lines you see, etc., please feel free to ask.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I noticed that we pay something like 7.5 cents a kilowatt hour for our electricity here. I know people in PG&E territory in California, they're paying something like 35 cents a kilowatt hour. And of course, they're a stakeholder-owned, private utility. I feel really, really lucky to live here where we're paying 7.5 cents a kilowatt hour. It's incredible compared to almost everywhere in the country.
Yeah, thank you. We work hard to keep those costs where they are, and that's really backed up by that long-term power agreement with Bonneville, because Bonneville is statutorily required to sell us what they generate at cost. So it should maintain that, aside from inflation and those kind of things. Bonneville's public just like we are, so they're not driven for shareholders or investors.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, Mitch, go ahead, and then we'll go to Fran next.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how this works very well. I'm too old. What is the advantage of purchasing the substation on Mountain?
One is local control, and being able to expand it on our timeline and our will. The other one was when Bonneville still owned that, they charged us what was called a transfer fee there, which was costing us about $150,000 a year, I want to say. So in 8 years' time, just that fee that we're not paying for them owning it will cover the cost of what we paid for it.
Oh, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Thanks for the question.
There's no true rules on Zoom. Fran,
I'm wondering if there's an organized plan for undergrounding the power lines, and if so, when will that project be finished?
We don't have a plan for undergrounding existing overhead right now. Anything new that goes in, we're putting in underground, but to underground overhead existing three-phase line is a rough, budgetary numbers, about $1 million a mile. So those low rates we were just talking about, that would change that pretty fast if we started spending that kind of money on undergrounding stuff. We are doing a lot to harden the overhead, a lot of fiberglass poles and arms and covered jumpers and that kind of stuff to, reduce risk. But to full scale underground stuff, I don't think the ratepayers would really like me too much for that.
Peter, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. So you kind of touched on one of them, that you're in contract with Bonneville through 2044. So I was wondering if that was like a price guarantee kind of a contract, but it sounds like it's going to continue to be a low price, but adjusted for inflation. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, the way the contract works with Bonneville does a rate case, it's basically a quasi judicial kind of process of all their inputs and what their costs are going to be, and then how we're not the only one with contracts to them. So then how does that get doled out to each public utility that has a similar contract? And so, but the increases are pretty incremental. We have some pretty good industry partners, trade associations that have real good experts, legal and analysts that kind of represent us in those hearings and make sure that Bonneville's not trying to pull a fast one or fatten somebody's wallet.
Follow-up question. So as we see kind of a general trend towards moving to more electric power in EV vehicles, and then also the city's push for heat pumps versus gas and that sort of thing, what is the city's capacity to add electrical service and keep up if the demand continues to increase?
That's kind of why we're wanting to do that expansion at the Mountain Avenue substation, because it's so centrally located to the city. We can feed both directions out of there. And the last time the engineers looked at it, they figured if we doubled the capacity there, we're good for, God, I can't pull the year out, but I figured it was going to be long past my career, and then some.
And you're a young guy.
All right. Fran?
I was wondering if part of your system hardening included thinking about like vandalism and terrorism.
I mean, we do have a SCADA system. We have safeguards on that to protect it from any kind of outside intruders. We have looked at some things, and I need to follow back up with Department of Homeland Security on some ideas of hardening or physical hardening, like at the substation that we own. Those kind of things we've looked at.
And I'll share, I think our biggest vandals are the squirrels.
Number one cause of outages in the United States.
Yeah, Mitch.
You had mentioned going out to Reeder Dam. Is there a way in which the public or there is some capacity for us or for me to get out there?
Jordan, you want to tackle that one? I don't really know.
Yeah, I think we discussed if that was a good tour spot or not for the OLLI class. And right now there's some major construction going on that is blocking the road up to the Reeder Dam. So one thing that we'd love to do in the future is include that. Though what I just learned is Medford, for their treatment plant, they do public tours twice a year. So maybe I'll meet with our public works and discuss if that's a potential to get folks up there to see, because it is beautiful. And I will say the picture that Tom had doesn't do the size justice.
Yeah, and
incredibly tall.
my understanding is it's not open to the public for just anyone to go up there and see it. That's correct.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, so I'll add you all on a noticing list if we figure out a way to get folks up there. Yeah, Phil?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I have two questions. One is I noticed that you had more underground lines than above ground lines, which surprised me. Can you speak about the pros and cons of underground versus above ground?
Well, obviously there's the aesthetics, and I mean, I grew up and I've been in this trade all my life. I kind of like overhead lines, but a lot of people don't. One of the biggest detriments to underground is when there is a fault. A lot of times it takes a lot longer to find where the problem is and repair it than when you have a problem with an overhead. There's little things that are different, obviously, for somebody that's hands-on with it. But I would say the biggest thing is actually fault location, and repairs on underground take a lot longer. They probably have less of them, but when they do, they're more impactful.
Do you have much less repairs with? It seems like above ground you'd have more repairs from.
There probably is. There's more maintenance on overhead for sure, but like I said, it's kind of a trade-off. If you do the maintenance on the overhead, you don't really have the outages. But when and even when you do have outages on overhead, it's a lot quicker to repair usually.
Okay. My other question is that I came from a town in Colorado where we had this dual electrical charging where during peak hours it was more expensive than otherwise. I don't see that very often in other places. Can you speak to
Time
that?
of use rates, I think, is what you're referring to. Different times of the day, they charge different rates.
Exactly.
Yeah, that it's popular. It's beneficial to the utility for a cost savings measure to lower those peaks. We're not big enough yet. Every time we've looked at even possibly implementing something like that, there just wasn't enough benefit for the cost of overseeing it. You see it a lot in places like Arizona. Like every utility in Arizona has time of use rates because they have such high peaks that it makes sense for them. We just don't have that kind of extreme, and don't need to shave that peak to have a whole nother separate rate we got to charge somebody.
Okay.
Are you all ready for some conservation program?
Yeah.
Listen closely, this is all the incentives that you all qualify for.
Unmute yourself.
All right. You can hear me now, hopefully? All right. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. It should say OLLI, Climate, Energy, and Conservation Programs. All right, great. Well, thanks for the introduction, Jordan. And it's a pleasure to work for Tom in the electric department. And my name is Chad Woodward. I work as the climate and energy analyst. And I'm going to run through some of our foundational information in our current programs and what we're looking to do moving forward here. So let's see if I can use these slides while viewing. All right. Are we on slide 2, everyone? Yes? Good. You should see the Climate and Energy Action Plan, and I can't see you. One second. Let me get my Zoom people back up here so I can follow along. All righty. So our Climate and Energy Action Plan, lovingly known as the CEAP, was adopted in 2017, and it has some very ambitious goals that we're working towards. It's a broad document. It reaches basically every department in the city, and we are fine-tuning how we work on this as of this year into 3 primary focus areas. Basically, our biggest emitters and our most important area where we're going to move to. So we have transportation, we have our natural gas usage for heating, and then we have our electricity that you've heard so much about. And as Tom mentioned and stated, it's a very clean electricity. So when looking at climate, it's great to be able to be a Bonneville Power Authority customer and purchase that 95% carbon-free energy. So as we do transition, and I believe this was maybe Peter's question, to if we transition away from gas and natural gas to electricity, we're going to have more demand, and we want to both build more local capacity and conserve the electricity that we do use. All right, so what is our program like here? We've got 3 of us on board, myself in the middle, Dan Cunningham at the top, and then Larry Giardina down at the bottom. And not all SEAP programs do live in the electric department. We have the water conservation and public works. We have hardening landscapes and fire resiliency in the fire department and emergency management over in administration. So those are all related to our climate document, and just want to touch base on those, and you can ask about those in the other presentations as they come up, or you may have already done so. In the electric alone, though, we do have 15 plus different programs, and they range from the heat pumps, electric vehicles. I'll get into those a little bit more. We actually have an existing loan program, and we're going to hopefully have a new loan program coming up soon, and I'll talk about that. When we do climate planning, it is the job of my position, committee, and the other staff to work on making sure we're going in the right direction and report on our progress as we do see change on an annual basis. And then we also have a climate and environment policy advisory committee, and they're the community conduit basically to participate and have a climate say. Obviously, you can talk directly to city council, but the CPAC group does allow for another avenue to be able to speak to the city on these matters. So looking specifically at the 3 program areas that we work on, Larry, he primarily focuses on the commercial and solar avenues, and commercial includes things like city buildings and lodging, hotels, motels. And Tom had alluded to how much we have increased our solar capacity in the city. And if you follow this, if you look at the graph, you'll see the taller yellow lines, that's our cumulative solar watts installed. And then the more orange, shorter lines demonstrate the amount of watts we've installed that particular year. So 2024, this is a calendar year basis. So that's where we sit. We're all the way up at 6.5 installed megawatts with a capacity greater than that when you actually look at the kilowatt hour production per year. Larry also focuses on heating and cooling in those industrial settings, and oh, no one knows the French version of air in there. Little typo. He also has worked on lighting projects, refrigeration projects. If you remember, about a year and a half ago, Safeway changed over all of their refrigeration to the type with the doors. That was something that Larry, through Bonneville Power Authority and our electrification conservation incentives, worked on. So that's another area. Moving into Dan, he primarily focuses in the residential zone. We've got a lot of heat pump installations, forced air or ductless. Those can be, and those are incentives that we have right here. Those can be either fuel switching, replacing gas, or upgrading an older heat pump, or sometimes still we're upgrading electric resistance heat. Part of that process of doing those incentives is Dan doing a home energy review and providing a before and after audit to one, make sure what you had before and what type of incentives you'll qualify for, and then two, to just make sure that we are installing, and it has to meet certain measures like a HSPF 2 number, heating seasonal performance factors, to qualify for our Bonneville incentives. And just a note about how we do our incentives. Some of them we do have funding. Electric to electric conservation is typically funded through our Bonneville contract and electric efficiency program. And then part of it is funded through ratepayer dollars, citizen resident dollars of yours, where you pay in, and we help to upgrade and decarbonize and conserve those types of things that wouldn't fit under Bonneville. A couple other areas that he'll work on: heat pump, water heaters, another big area, weatherization, duct sealing. Those are all areas that he works with. And he also has a program that he works with contractors for new construction. And when they build an Earth Advantage style new home, they can qualify for some additional incentives on the front end to help reduce the cost and increase the efficiency of appliances installed at construction time, trying to get them ahead of the curve and above the electric code at that time. Let me go back and talk about this graph. So to the point of we're using more electricity to heat our homes and to drive our vehicles, you would think our numbers would be going up for electric use, but we have that trend line heading down, the orange trend line I'm trying to highlight there. And there's a couple of reasons. One is conservation. We're getting more efficient with the electricity that we do use, moving from a resistance heater to a heat pump. And then the second thing is we are seeing a lot of folks install solar on their homes. We're pretty high adopters of solar electricity, and that helps when people don't need to pull from the grid and they're actually putting back into the grid or into a battery and using that energy later. It helps keep our numbers actually on a decreasing pace, even with mild increase in population. And like we all know, many, many more electric vehicles on the road these days. All right, jumping into my category here, Chad, we've got a few different areas that I focus on. I look at the electric vehicles, the EV chargers. We have an e-bike and an induction cooktop incentive, and I'll have a link for this information at the end. We've also piloted an EV car share program to help people experience either one. You want to see what it's like to have an EV and drive an EV, so it's a great way to experiment with that. Or two, maybe you don't have a car or you need a second car, and it's something that you can rent out per hour, and it's centrally located down off of Lithia Way on the Pioneer 2nd Street lot area. And then another task I have is working with that CPAC committee as the committee liaison. And again, the various tasks that come with all jobs: websites, grants, reporting. Moving into 2025, working with City Council direction and the Climate and Energy Environment Policy Advisory Committee, we're shifting our focus. And one of the areas we want to expand is to have greater accessibility for all residents. We just recently got passed through City Council some new programs to increase our incentives for electrification. We have a brand new electric ready incentive where, and this, we see this a fair amount, where maybe someone does want to put in a heat pump instead of the gas heater, or a heat pump water heater or an EV charger, and their electric panel just doesn't have the capacity, or they haven't run either the correct breaker or run the circuitry and the wiring all the way out to the endpoint where it needs to be used. Well, now we have an incentive so that people can be electric ready, and they don't have to actually do the installation at that time. They just simply can ask to be ready for that installation in the future. So that's a pretty exciting and new one, and that's on our website already. And a final one here in this list is trying to focus on rental units, and that's a hard place. Working in the rental area is harder because you have to have buy-in from the landlord, and they're not typically as motivated because they don't see the end user bill, the electric bill. It goes to the landlord or the tenant rather. So we're trying to make some inroads there, and it's kind of the holy grail of, and the last bastion of trying to find places for conservation on electric resistance heat. That's where you still see those types of heating units mostly. So we have a packaged terminal heat pump program, and those are the style of heaters you typically see in motels and hotels, but many apartments also. So that's a new and exciting one. Stay tuned. In the future, we will hopefully have our home energy score launching, and that's just a new national model by the Department of Energy, and we have a grant to try this out from the state. So we'll be launching that in January, where you can get a free home energy score, and it's very similar to the home energy review, but it's a model we wanted to check out. It's very robust and well supported, so it's a great opportunity for us to try to move into that. And you'll see these home energy scores in other markets happen at the time of sale. Some cities do require that they create a home energy score so that the new homeowner can walk in knowing roughly what it's going to look like. It's sort of like a walkability score, but in this case, you can better understand what improvements you might need and what your utilities might be as you move into that home. And maybe that pivots you from one home to another. That's what they're seeing in some places. So the energy retrofit Ashland is the other one. This is moving at a glacial pace, and so I say we're 6 months from 6 months away. I think that's the way people describe things, but it's changes of administration and staffing shortages at the federal level have slowed this process down, but it's still underway, and this will be an opportunity where people can have an easy application process. If you have an electric utility account, you can apply, and based on your previous payment history, get approved to do an energy retrofit and then have an on-bill payment. So it's kind of nice one-stop shopping that can be paired with your any state, federal, or local incentives as well. All right. Moving into the next category here is our committee. I want to touch base on CPAC. Currently, we have room for 9 members. I'll just skip down to that last bullet point. If anyone's really interested, we have a vacancy. Apply today. We have 9. It's a 9-member committee with the option for 2 additional members who are non-voting and under the age of 18. And we've had pretty good success in having those youth members to the committee in the past. And similarly, if you know anyone who lives in Ashland and wants to be part of that committee, give us an application. They're on our website, and I'll lead you to that in just a minute. On that committee, we have 2 city council liaisons who come to the meetings, and then myself as the staff liaison. And right now we are meeting the second Thursdays of the month from 4 to 6, available via Zoom if you ever want to just tune in. Do check out the city's calendar just so that you know when it is. We may be switching that time a little bit to make it more conducive for people coming in after work, like a 5 or 5:30 start time. All right, so all the incentives I briefly have touched on, it's really great. We have a new webpage that launched about 1.5 years ago. And if you go to that webpage, ashlandoregon.gov, and scroll down, you'll see this tile, Climate, Energy, and Conservation. It's very easy to get onto that page, and that will link you to both the CPAC committee and all of the incentives, our climate action plan, and links to the water conservation and fire department site for their incentives and programs. And then another one, the acronym for this program is called HIPPO, And that's why you see the purple hippo, the hub for incentive programs projects in Oregon. And this is a great hub so that you know what other incentives you might be eligible for. As the electric utility, we have electric incentives, but as if you are a gas customer with a Vista, your incentive programs will be run through ETO, or the Energy Trust of Oregon. And you can put in information, household size. It will help determine what you might qualify for on that Hippo page. And it loops back to our page, but it's not updated. Our information might be a little bit off. So if there's ever a question, our page is the more up to date on that for incentives. But state programs will be on there, and that's a great way to understand all of the options out there. And I'll stop at that point.
So this is Kim, and I put a question on chat just because I didn't want to forget the question. Avista has a billing program where they take a year's worth of bills and average it out to by a monthly, and then I bill that average monthly. Would the city of Ashland ever try that with electric use?
I'm going to defer to Tom and Jordan on that one.
Sorry,
I
Kim.
think,
We do have a bill averaging program through our utility billing. Tom, do you know the details, or do you want me to share a bit about it?
I don't, I was just gonna say what you said. I know we have some program like that. I don't know all the details, so go for it.
Yes. So the details I know is that we do have a bill averaging program just to help make your payment be consistent every month, and you can plan for it. If you are interested in signing up for that, I will include the email address to reach out to for folks in my follow-up email when I post the link to the session.
That would be great, thanks.
and then it seems like the right time to mention our utility assistance program. We have a couple of those on our website as well. Yeah, you can get into that if those are income qualified programs, and just another resource that's great for, even if it's not something you might be able to use, tell someone else who might.
Exactly, thank you. And Chad, do you mind, just so we can see each other's faces, ending screen share?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Stop share. Sorry, meant to do that just a second ago.
Oh, good. Peter, question?
Yeah, Chad, could you tell us a little bit more about the EV charging stations? And there was discussion about expanding them, and also how are they funded in general? Both, the construction and then also the energy that they use.
Yeah, good questions. So I was wondering, Peter, why your name looked familiar, and I think you sent me an email similar, right? To this question, and I think I responded to you. So I'm going to give that answer to everyone here. So a good opportunity for that. So, currently the city has 16 free EV charging stations, 10 over by the Pony Espresso on Lithia Way, 4 over by the Grove on East Main, and then 2 in the Hargadine parking garage. So the plans for expansion are 10 that we have some grant funding for right now, 4 over at the 2nd Street parking lot across from the Winchester Inn. And then I've got some funding to try something new through ODOT, and they're going to be these pole-mounted EV chargers that deploy and ascend with the use of a QR code, and they're going to be placed in neighborhoods close to where apartment buildings exist, so that people can benefit who live out in neighborhoods and maybe don't have the access to the charging there. So that will be another 6 2 per pole items that we've got to get working on here. As far as how they are purchased and funded, there is a mechanism of revenue called the Clean Fuels Program that the city of Ashland gets, Tom's department, electric department gets as revenue. And so that's a revenue stream when we have EVs charge. So there's benefit to having more people charge and more people own EVs as a potential revenue stream for these credits. But ultimately, It's not a clear line item, a 1-for-1. That's electric revenue goes into electric department. And then there's the out portion of the revenue is just electric conservation fund. So we pay for those charges out of that electric conservation fund, the city ratepayer dollars that we can use on various projects like EV incentives, heat pump incentives, the solar incentive that we have. So that all comes out of that same bundle. Does that answer it, Peter?
It's complicated, in other words.
Yeah, so revenue in and revenue out, but it's what is good for the city is having people charge their EVs on those public chargers and having people buy and register EVs in the city. It the state has that clean fuels program that promotes revenue generation and the market sale of these types of items, the CFP credits. So we love to see EVs purchased, we love to see people charging, and we can pay that forward.
Well, as an EV owner, I can tell you it's very competitive at the city lots, and I've seen a few times when it's almost come to blows.
More. We're looking at more, and yeah, always share your ideas on what you think might help that situation. I'm always looking for feedback.
Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, hi. How do you go about getting a home energy audit review, and what does it cost?
Well, the cost is zero right now for the home energy review style. And Dan Cunningham, you can either call him or email a form. Both are on our website. So he's used to taking requests either way for that existing home energy review. It gets a little complicated as we explore this pilot program that's going to be tailored for retailers and also, the home energy score that is going to be looking at partially real estate sales and also can be used in lieu of a home energy audit. So right now that will be free too as part of this grant pilot program, and we're blending them. So it's a little murky and confusing, but just contact us and we'll get you set up with something.
So I'm assuming he comes and spends some time in the home, and is there a waiting period? Does he have a backlog?
It can get busy, especially this time of year. We're gonna see. Usually, he gets a backlog when the seasonal impacts happen. I think typically more so in the fall into winter. So, yeah, get on that list. But hopefully, we can keep that waiting period down with this home energy score pilot at the same time and try to figure out how we can expand capacity to meet everyone's needs moving forward.
Okay, thanks.
And I will say I have had a home energy audit before I was an employee of the city. And it was just so useful to have Dan walk through and not only let me know what incentives I qualified for, but just to give me tips on how to keep the house less drafty during the winter. It really lowered our electric bill. So big supporter of signing up for that. Chad, I had a question. You showed a graph, sorry, Lane, I'll do you next, that showed our electric consumption as a city. And there's some volatility year to year. Is there typical, is that weather pattern? Do you know what typically causes volatility? Or Tom, maybe you do as the.
It's pretty weather driven.
Okay.
You know, hotter summer, colder winter, usage goes up.
Yeah.
Yep. That's all. I was going to say the same thing and let Tom expand, but that's all I had.
Yeah, that snowstorm last year, I'm assuming helped push up the 2024 numbers.
And we had a mildish summer by comparison. So you look at the annual year, might even out.
Yeah. Elaine, did you have a question?
Yeah, so are there incentives for installing an electric vehicle charger at our homes?
There is not currently. Act Now, well, you can still get your federal tax credit. That's part of the idea behind it was we haven't had one in the past. Other utilities do have them, co-ops and municipally owned, consumer-owned utilities. So that's something we can look at in the future. But right now, and I can't remember, I believe this one expires December 31st. If you do install an EV charger, you can get an alternative fuel tax credit. So that was was a pretty decent chunk of money. And this is my moment to go on out on a limb here and say level 1 charging works really good. I've been doing it for 3 years, and level 1 means you plug in the charger that they gave you for free with your car, if you can get to a plug, and just plug into a wall outlet. And if you're doing 20 to 30 miles of driving a day, you can charge your car overnight with that, and it works great. So it's a nice low cost alternative. And level 2 is obviously really helpful to get charged up, but level 1, I think, gets overlooked. And so does that alternative fuel tax credit.
Dan. Phil, a question?
Yeah, the question goes back to Tom. And I'm going to return to my above ground, below ground utility wires. If you had the choice, would you choose to have all above ground or all below ground utility wires?
That's a tough, well, I guess the choice that we've made is we do put everything new for the last 25 years or so has been, we've put underground. So I guess that choice has kind of been made.
Okay, thanks.
If you see him on the street outside work hours, you can ask him for to confirm it and from his personal viewpoint. Yeah, Mitch.
I had a question for Tom. He mentioned early on regarding the fiberglass poles as to their fire resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain that? It would seem to me that fiberglass would burn quickly.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too, till I started researching it. I saw Pacific Corps was doing fiberglass poles with a lot of their wildfire mitigation work, and they're spending a bunch of money on it. So I stopped and looked at one day and got the manufacturer's information off of it and looked into them. And these poles are actually rated to like 2,500 degrees before they have any structural failings. And they actually have some of them, when we order them that way, come with a built-in kind of a sensor, I guess you'd say. So after the fire goes through, you can go look at that. And if it's turned color, you know that pole has structural damage. If it hasn't changed color, you're good to go.
Wow, fascinating. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Along those lines, some years ago, I saw information that said if you have vinyl framed windows in your house and a fire happens versus fiberglass framed windows, the fiberglass framed windows will hold up better. Like the vinyl will melt and the glass will fall out if the fire's hot enough. But fiberglass apparently has more heat resistance. That was years ago. I don't know if that's still true today, but there, and of course, fiberglass is more expensive for framing windows, but it holds up better in a fire, as far as I know.
It's more expensive than wood poles too, but probably worth the investment.
Tom or Chad, anything that you want to make sure this OLLI group walks away knowing or thinking about anytime they turn on their lights?
I'll jump in. Just a last pitch. If you were going to do a heat pump or something of that effect, to that effect, and you're going to look for the federal tax incentives, do know that they're expiring on 12/31. Work will need to be completed by then. So still time to get something done if you're looking at that. So just a public service announcement.
Chad, so the goal is 2050 to be carbon zero, net zero. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you've been working on this, well, the city's been working on this now almost 7, 8 years. How likely is it to reach that goal?
Oh, I mean, there's a couple things at play. Future technologies is probably the biggest unknown. And if Bill Gates just wrote a memo this week asking people to maybe focus more on health, public health around the world and saving lives than on removing 0.1 degree Fahrenheit or Celsius. I can't remember what it was. So, and the reason he said all that was because he feels that future technologies are going to really be what changes the game for us. I think we are doing well on a traditional trajectory, but we do see expanded battery technologies every year, price of solar, price of batteries, heat pump efficiencies, all of this is changing. And it seems doable, but every time we have seen a climate milepost, it usually gets pushed back. That's the realistic side of things. So I'm optimistic and hopeful, and I'm a big believer in those technological benefits.
Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, and one of your charts showed that electrical use has gone down. I wonder how much of that has to do with people converting their light bulbs to the name escapes me at the moment.
LEDs?
LEDs, thank you.
Yeah. Those are tremendously more efficient. And now, new state law, you can't buy tube fluorescent lights. You can only buy LED tube lights moving forward. So everyone will be converting, and you'll see, I think that'll spur even further electric reductions as people move forward, because they won't be able to purchase in the state of Oregon those tube fluorescents.
And we've also, all the city, like your street lighting, we've converted a lot of that, and we haven't got them all yet, but a big portion of it to LEDs. So I mean, all that stuff adds up. Safeway parking lot, that they converted all theirs to LEDs. So those all contribute.
Yeah, Elaine?
Yeah, I just typed it into the chat. You mentioned landlord incentives, and this is a really, really big fish to fry, right? Just getting landlords to improve their rental units. Are there incentives beyond, I think you mentioned heat pumps, but for example, installing better windows, more insulation, wall insulation, ceiling insulation, anything like that?
Yeah, to answer that question, technically every incentive is available to every utility payer for that building type, whether it's residential or commercial. So every apartment qualifies. It's a matter of how do you make headroads to get to get a landlord to want to spend the time and money to do something. And one of the ways to do that is to cover 100% of the cost. And that can be through income qualified programs that are passed down through us, or our new pass-through heat pump. We selected that because it is a popular item, and it can reduce, it could be 200% more efficient than the radiant heat. So that's also another way to get in the door and say, hey, landlord, we're saying, it's a win-win. You can market your house, your apartment is more efficient, your tenant spends less money, and hey, while we're at it, did you notice that we could put a little insulation in that ceiling, or do some weather stripping or sealing? So trying to get a foot in the door, so to speak.
Well, Tom, do you want to say any final words here before we
I appreciate everybody's time. Our our motto here in the electric department is we don't want you to think about us. We want you to flip the switch and the lights come on, and you don't have to worry about us, but we're here to respond and take care of needs, when the outage does arise.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. I have a list of things that I'll include in my next email, just to give you all direct links to our incentive program, how to sign up for a home energy review, the utility billing thing for averaging out your bill, etc. And as always, please feel free to reach out to me with any questions, and I can forward it to the right department if you have any questions. All right. Thanks you all, and enjoy the extra 6 minutes of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.